So guys, Larry Hoover, the one of the founders of the Gangster Disciple Nation, is finding himself in a situation that a lot of guys are in, which is that they start something when they're young. And by start something, I mean a life of gang activity when they're young. But by the time they get sentenced to a long prison term and they're in there for decades, everything changes. He's dropped his flag. He said he's not having anything to do with the Gangster Disciples. He's not the leader. He's not the elder statesman. He's nothing. And he's trying again for a sentencing break. He said he, quote, wants nothing to do with the Gangster Disciples. He was once labeled as one of the most notorious criminals in Illinois history, and he's renewed his bid to undo the life sentence that he's serving in the federal Supermax prison in Colorado, and he claims to have renounced the violent street gang that he once led. So according to him, he's dropped his flag. The U.S. District Judge last year declined a request from Hoover for a lower sentence under the First Step Act, which was a law signed by President Trump in 2018. And some other high-ranking GDs had gotten out under that act that Trump had signed. In doing so, the judge gave Hoover room to try again. So now Hoover's taken advantage of that opportunity, and in a pair of letters to the judge filed in Chicago's federal court, Hoover wrote in a rare public comment that he is, quote, no longer the Larry Hoover that people sometimes talk about, or he who is written about in the papers, or the crime figure described by the government. Hoover is 71 now, and if he's successful in undoing his federal life sentence, he would still have a state murder sentence to serve, and he'd likely do so in the federal prison system. But prosecutors have expressed concern that Hoover would next launch legal attacks on that case. A former prosecutor said that Hoover, quote, ran a gang from prison, that he was responsible for the highest murder rate this city's ever seen, a drug network that was pervasive and efficient, and an organization that controlled parks and street corners in neighborhoods and made it impossible for children to go outside and be children. So in his letters, Hoover wrote that the Fed Supermax prison has been called, quote, as close to hell as possible, and he agreed. He acknowledged being aware, anecdotally, that some misguided people hold him up as a symbol. And he wrote, quote, I wish that this were not so. Regardless, these people are apart from me and do what they do with zero encouragement or direction from me, he wrote. To be clear, if I had any ability to influence them, I'd ask that they forget me and forsake the gang life forever. So when a guy gets locked up, like Hoover, their legend kind of grows. When they're not out here in the public, like humans have flaws. I mean, we know this. All humans have flaws, and when guys are out in the public eye every day, you're inevitably going to mess up, do goofy stuff, and it's going to kind of let people see your humanity. But when you're locked up, okay, and put out of the public eye, and then years and decades go by, whatever reputation that you had when you were locked up at that time kind of grows, and you kind of achieve legend status after a while, even if you've been doing the same, kind of goofy stuff that all people do, like when you're behind bars. Now, I'm not saying that he's done, I don't know what he's been doing behind bars, so I'm not talking about Larry Hoover specifically, but you can see this all the time, like especially like the way that gang leaders used to insulate themselves from the lower level guys back in the days when there was still structure in the streets. And even today in some of the gangs that still do have structure, or with the cartels and stuff, the leader of the gang will like never interact with the guys at the lower level, and so they'll see him as like this mythical figure, that back there in the shadows, it's like they fear you more when they never see you, and your legend kind of grows in that way. But anyways, that's kind of the phenomenon that you see with Hoover now. His legend has grown as he's been behind bars. When he was out here in the streets, like back in the day, I mean, he was just like any of these other gang members that you see out here, man. He was like just regular stuff. Nobody was looking at him as anything special. But now he's almost like become like this godlike figure, and it's really like not something that he even co-signs at all. So he wrote that he took responsibility for his past, adding that he was, quote, lost in an enduring pattern of criminality those many years ago. But he wrote, I have long since renounced my association with any and all criminal organizations and their membership. So he said, I am no longer a member, leader, or even an elder statesman of the Gangster Disciples. He said, I want nothing to do with it now and forever. So Chicago's top federal prosecutor also made an unusual direct plea in July of 2020, telling that it would be a miscarriage of justice to reduce Hoover's sentence in any way, shape, or form. He said it simply takes no sense now. He said it simply makes no sense now to give him a chance to run the GDs. That attorney who on Tuesday filed an appearance on Hoover's behalf is the attorney who helped free actor Bill Cosby and now represents R&B singer R. Kelly. So Hoover ordered a murder in 1973 that led to his conviction in state court and a sentence of 150 to 200 years in Illinois' prison system. So there the feds say that he ran a $100 million a year drug business as tens of thousands of gang soldiers continued to work for him in Chicago and other cities. A federal investigation that led to Hoover's conviction for running a criminal enterprise. Hoover was given a life sentence in 1998. Hoover was told that the charisma that he used to gain the loyalty of thousands was proof that he could have been a great man. He said, "You misused a great gift that you had received from God." But what Larry Hoover would do when he gets out, I mean, I don't know. Only he knows that, man. So he's 71 years old, and he could live potentially another 20 years or so if he is released on the outside. But I don't know whether he's sincere or not. I don't know, man. I don't know Larry Hoover personally, but he has dropped his flag, and this should be a lesson to all the young kids. That it takes a split second, to make a decision that can land you in prison for the rest of your life. And I don't know if guys think they're going to have the same mindset at 70 when they've been sitting, in a box for 50 years that they had when they were 20. But I have yet to see a case of that. Like, literally, I have yet to see a case of that where, like, a guy is 70 years old, glad that he did what he did when he was 20, to land him in prison for the rest of his life. Like, I've never seen a guy glad that he did it. They always regret it. Like, every single case that I've ever seen. So, these kids, there's like a feeling of invincibility that comes, like, from pride that can really lead to somebody's complete downfall, like either their death or their lifetime incarceration. And you see it playing out over and over and over again, guys making the same mistakes, not learning from the guys that came before them. Everybody should take a lesson from, what happened to Hoover, man. Your boy, Winnie C. Report. I'm out.